Happy Boxing Day. What's a better way to celebrate Boxing Day than spending all that money you got on Christmas? Most people in America don't even know what Boxing Day is. It's fine, but something they celebrate in the UK and Canada. But for Americans, it's a good day to go and spend some of that Christmas cash on gear for your favorite team. You see big Broncos win, big Nuggets win. Of course, Avs keep rolling. Stop by Sports Fan. They got 4 locations, 2 downtown on 16th Street, of course, the flagship store on Federal right behind Power Field at Mile High, as well as the store at Park Meadows. And they still have so many great deals carrying over from the Christmas season. Still a handful of those commemorative Super Bowl 50 hats, collector's edition. They're only going to make one run of those, and then you will never have a chance to buy them again. And a bunch of other great deals, including I think they're still running their womp womp sale where you buy a Chiefs jersey, get a second one for free. So for all those sad Chiefs fans like we saw last night, stop by Sports Fan. You can buy them not one, but 2 gifts. But do yourself a favor and go by and see my friends at Sports Fan. You know, I touched on it. The Broncos win. It's a good way to celebrate the holiday. Chris Harris Jr. and I are going to break it all down as Football Fridays starts now. Chris, happy Boxing Day. Again, I don't even really know what Boxing Day is other than I think they give extra presents in the UK and Canada. But speaking of presents, you and your 5 girls and your wife, did you spoil them on Christmas?
Oh yeah, man. But we got some good things, some artistic things, make them color, draw, them to use their mind to be able to create things. So that's the type of gift I got them this year.
Okay,
they wanted Roblox. They want Roblox points and stuff like that. Nah, you get some art stuff.
Yeah, okay. So that was for your kids, not for your wife. You didn't get your wife art stuff.
Nah.
Let me ask you this. Is your wife good at picking out gifts for you? I imagine just based on knowing you and knowing how you dress. I'm not saying you're not a good dresser, but does she do a good job in the gift department, or do you say, oh, thanks, and then take some stuff back?
She did. She always does pretty good. She always been a great surpriser for sure. This year, I think I just got like kept it real simple, like a cool like a tea set, like got me your own KU mug.
Yeah.
All that. So it worked out pretty good this year. I like it.
You know what's funny is my wife, and she thinks we have too many Jayhawks in our life in terms of glassware and clothing. She'll never buy me anything KU related unless, in fact, I even sent her, because for a stretch or the quarter zip like I'm wearing, they had the white, all white one with pink for breast cancer. I'm like, here, get me this. And that was like around Thanksgiving. It did not come. And she doesn't mean to do this, but she'll just still buy me clothes. And I'm like, I'm not going to wear that. So I end up taking it back. And instead of trying to pick out sunglasses, she just got me a gift card to sunglasses so I can go pick out my own. I'm like, I really just want new lenses for my glasses. But either way, I do take back more than I'd like. I did knock it out of the park for her, but that was because literally like she was running out of perfume. So I just replaced that. She wanted new sunglasses. So I replaced those because hers are all scratched up. And she may take them back, but I think I always do a little bit better of kind of trying to pay attention. I'll make a note on my phone. And then the kid's spoiled, of course. The kiddo got a new bike. My 7-year-old, he got a new bike. He's stoked. And my daughter, everything K-pop Demon Hunters, dude. It is unbelievable the amount of K-pop Demon Hunters stuff. But let's jump into the game because, of course, the Broncos and, in fact, the Nuggets. But let's stick with the Broncos because that's what we do. Mm-hmm. It may not have been, as Sean Payton said, aesthetically pleasing. It doesn't need to be. But 20-13, they go to Arrowhead against an undermanned Chiefs team who's still going to play you tough and get that win. Give me some takeaways from the game and from where you were sitting.
It's always tough going to KC, regardless of the records. They're a team that it's a division game. They know each other very well. They're always going to play each other tight. And that's just the type of game it was. It was Thursday night game. Broncos just played Sunday. So they had to get their body ready, get acclimated and ready to go for tonight. And that's how they played. They played like, hey, we're just trying to come in here and handle business and get up out of here. So salute to them for being able to pull it out, even though it was a tough game. You're going to have games like this. But to go in there and win in KC, we haven't done that in a long time. To be able to get the job done and one game away from division title, man, you definitely should be excited.
Yeah, I take Sean Payton at his word on a lot of stuff. I think we just do the longer you cover him, the more you realize, okay, this guy, the reason he's won this many games. but he's like, the game unfolded how we thought it would. And he said that a few times. And they just didn't want to do the couple things that I think let the Chiefs stay in the game was would turn out to be a great interception. You know, Bo's under pressure. He throws the ball. Great play by the DB, Christian Fulton at LSU, who we know is obviously a good player for LSU. And then Nick Bolt, the linebacker, who's one of the fastest linebacker in the league, to snatch the ball out of the air. That sets up their only touchdown. And then big return in the kicking game. That sets up points. Otherwise, the Broncos were fine. And so had they have not, in those instances, shot themselves in the foot, the final score might have been like 20-9, if you will. But they weren't going to do anything to, like, Bo didn't take too many shots because he didn't need to throw a deep interception that I know can essentially be a punt. Didn't need to drop him back. I mean, I guess he did end up, dropping back 38 times, but not make him stand there and try to pick apart the defense. Just kind of take what was out there and keep the game manageable. So when Sean says doesn't have to be aesthetically pleasing, like you said, they've got a shot to win the division, and they could do it from their couch on Saturday if the Texans take care of the Chargers.
Yeah, Bo, we definitely tried to still go down the field. It just wasn't there. And the Chiefs were playing more, let's say, coverages. They weren't blitzing and doing all the different things that they usually do from a Spagnuolo defense. But, so they kind of kept an umbrella over top of everything, kept a cap. And their defense played good. You got to give credit to the Chiefs. They're still an NFL defense. They still got Chris Jones over there. Still got some guys over there that can play. So our offense isn't a high potent offense yet to where the Chiefs defense wouldn't be a tough game. Does that make sense, Brandon?
Yeah, no.
Once our offense shows they're elite, then we expect them to be, going to the Chiefs and put up 30. But right now, we're not there yet. We're still a work in progress. And you just got to go over there and get the job done and get the win.
Well, that leads into kind of our first piece from post game, and Bo Nix was asked about the way Steve Spagnuolo and defense played him, and is it what they expected to see with that too high safety shell that Chris just mentioned?
Well, it's honestly it's the exact opposite of what I thought we were going to get. I thought they were going to pressure us like crazy, but you're right. We got a bunch of too high zone the whole game, and they put a lid on top of it, and they make it tough to find explosive plays. So you just got to inch your way down the field. And I think, obviously, the plays we scored on, they were longer drives, a lot of plays. So we just did what we had to do, but that was a good defense.
And they're a good defense. Steve Spagnuolo, a heck of a coordinator. You mentioned Chris Jones, who, of course, Broncos fans appreciate him with the very unveteran move of lining up off sides to set up that Broncos late touchdown. But what's interesting is when they put Trent McDuffie, who's definitely their best corner, as well as Jalen Watson, their other corner, on IR, then I would think, okay, maybe they're not going to go man because they're taking their two best corners off the field. And in order to help out the younger corners, and I know Christian Fulton obviously played plenty of football and was on that LSU title team with Joe Burrow and them, but there's a reason that, they play those other guys more, certainly McDuffie, that they weren't going to maybe try to get after it as much. Not that there wouldn't be pressure looks, but that they were going to say, okay, you're going to have to beat us here, Bo Nix. And if we can keep it close, then maybe we come up with a play like they did. And so I'm not surprised. And just because Bo said that doesn't mean that's what Sean said necessarily, although I know they kind of, probably are talking about this. Don't you think that's exactly how you would have played it once you lose your top two cover corners?
I see the philosophy in it. The philosophy is that, hey, the Broncos thrive off big plays. What can we do to eliminate that? Make them drive the ball down the field. Let's see if Bo Nix can put together 10-play drives, 15-play drives. And they were able to do that multiple times last night. But that could be a strategy. Hey, eliminate the Broncos' deep plays. Let's see if they're going to be consistent and run the football and see if they can work their way down the field. It worked last night. It had multiple drives with multiple plays. But, it's something that could be a possibility that you could see in the future for sure.
And so a couple other things that I want to get to from last night's game, talking about those injuries to the Chiefs, not a surprise. Not only did they shut down those two corners for the final two games, Rashee Rice, who told the team he thought he had a concussion after the Chargers lost a couple weeks ago. They were obviously focused as a team, I think maybe a little more on the Mahomes knee injury, but he ends up sitting out last week against the Titans, and they shut him down, as well as Tyquan Thornton. So you take two of your top 3 or 4 receivers off the field. That still leaves Worthy and Juju, but you knew that they weren't going to have as many weapons for Oladukin. And on the other side, though, the Broncos, we knew Nate Atkins re-aggravates the knee. Obviously, Pat Bryant with the concussion, no expectation that he'd be back, and not sure how far along he is in that process. We'll probably have a better sense next week. And then Dre Greenlaw with the hamstring. I'm not sure how bad that is, but you err on the side of caution there, especially with Sternad being able to play after hurting his foot. I think that maybe surprised some folks that he was able to get out there. But the one that the way they manage the roster, and we know that this is Sean's thing, Luke Wattenberg hurting his shoulder, and then you see, just as they go through their transactions for game day, they put Mercedes Lewis, on the 53 because he was out of elevations, and they put Wattenberg on IR, which means he has to miss 4 games. I don't know how that factors in come playoffs, and I should see if I can find that out, because does that mean he can only play in the Super Bowl if you're the 1 seed? I guess we'll find that out. But Alex Forsythe steps in. He's a guy who started 4 games a year ago, and then didn't play very, very much. Loses the job to Wattenberg full time, or it's Wattenberg's job. Wattenberg with the big deal. Forsythe stepped in, and I thought he handled himself just fine against Chris Jones in that defense.
Yeah, even Powers. I thought Powers played solid. That was how many games has Powers been back, or was that his first game?
No, game and a half. I mean, he played 20 games, and he played or 20 snaps. I think it was like 40 something to 20 something. I'll check the snaps real fast. But yeah, just interior O-line, when you don't have that consistency that the Broncos have been lucky to be that consistent up front. Yeah. But just in general, though, when you go to backups, it's sort of like PJ Locke, and I know that this isn't the exact same, but it's not a guy that's never played, or you're not moving a guard who's mostly a guard, but is your backup center. So they've got to feel good about where that is. And as for the snap breakdown, Palczewski 31, Powers 41. So he's already kind of retaken his spot. I guess we'll see how the game plays out on a week from Sunday against the Chargers. But in general, just let's.
The Chiefs tested out Powers too. They put Jones on him the first couple times. Especially in pass rush, and Powers held up. He anchored down. He was strong. That showed me that, hey, this guy is ready to come back. I got to see him a little bit more, be more effective in the run game. But I thought he looked solid. He looked good. Chris Jones was getting his ass kicked so much inside, he had to go outside to go get some pressure, right? So salute to those boys inside. And you got to have some good veteran backups, especially in today's NFL. We can see what's going on with the Vikings. I don't know how they went with that trash quarterback, right? You got to have some veteran backups, especially to get you to go win a Super Bowl.
Okay, so I want to hear Bo talking about Forsythe in a second, but let's stick there just for a sec, because I don't know when you cross the threshold from young to veteran, because Brosmer was making his second start for the Vikings, 3 passing yards total, and they win that game. I mean, the 4 turnovers, credit to Brian Flores, but it's funny because I see people tweeting, how is Brian Flores not getting more talk about as a head coach? And I'm like, don't sue the NFL. He's actively suing his future employers. So all it takes is one. All it takes is one team that likes him, that either isn't in the lawsuit or doesn't care, or let's pretend the Giants, who are part of that lawsuit, and I think are pretty prominently named. If the Giants said, "Hey, we'll hire you," drop the lawsuit, maybe that's enough. I don't know. But anyway, Brosmer has 2 starts. He looks bad in both. Terrible against Seattle, not great yesterday. Oladukin's in year 4, but he's been a practice squad player mostly. As Kirk Herbstreit pointed out on the broadcast, 2 rings. And he didn't look like a guy. He didn't look like a deer in headlights. He didn't look great, but there was a comfort level. So my biggest takeaway for the Chiefs in a lot of ways was they don't need to bring Minshew back, and I don't know how hurt he is, that I think Oladukin will probably be fine as Mahomes' backup going forward.
Oladukin is a good scrambler. He's a good runner. He can make plays off script, but when it comes to passing, he is not it, right? They need a guy that can pass the football, that's going to be behind Mahomes. Oladukin, he didn't show me that he can pass and be a consistent backup, but, he showed me he can make plays with his legs. He can scramble when his time is due, and he's better than a lot of other backups in this league, though. But do I think he should be penciled in as automatically the answer is the backup? No. But did he make some off-script plays? Yes. But when it came down to it and he had to win the game with his arm, he was very inaccurate. So that's what kind of things I look at. Can he make some throws when the team needs them? And a lot of times I thought those were just lucky. The Broncos haven't faced a guy like this. They're getting used to his play style. And then once they caught on to it, the dude couldn't really do anything.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. You don't really scheme against a guy dribbling the ball to himself
Right.
on a football
Right.
field.
Losing the ball while you're scrambling.
But a guy that's in your line of work, I guess you've been doing a little longer. Jordan Palmer, who's Carson Palmer's little brother, works with every quarterback. He worked with Burrow coming out, Josh Allen, Mahomes. He says that he has a theory that was developed, or inspired by his brother, saying, when Carson gets to the league, he's number one pick, but he sits behind Kitna for a year, and then Kitna stayed on that roster. And Carson, even in year 10, wants a vet in the room. So that's why Chad Henne, Matt Moore, guys like that have always been good. Minshew, in this case, have always been good for Patrick, because having a true vet in the room.
Yeah.
I guess, can you speak to that theory? What do you think about, especially for quarterbacks, because different position groups are different, although we know like what Dobbins brought to the room, or what probably Tim Patrick is doing down in Jacksonville kind of situation, certainly before Jacoby Myers got there. What do you think, though, for quarterbacks specifically, about no matter how good you are, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar, Mahomes, obviously, and Bo Nix with guys like Stidham, but what do you think about that notion?
I think that always helps. A lot of these quarterbacks are very young, so if you can get a veteran guy with them, I think even the veteran quarterbacks like an older guy with them, somebody that kind of knows the game, knows the way around, just to help them out with their preparation and being able to have that guy they can connect with. So I think as an organization, as a GM, a head coach, you got to find that backup that can mesh with that starting guy. If you got a guy that can mesh with them, that they can be able to prepare together, be great teammates towards each other, that can be huge. And Stidham is a great choice for Bo Nix, even though they went through that competition, right? Stidham just, he understands his role and the things that he has to do if Bo did get out. And we expect him to come in and play solid. So this is where teams are losing it. The Colts find a way to get Phillip Rivers, but a lot of teams around the league are struggling with this, right? They're struggling with this. Tua that hadn't had a vet, backup quarterback with him, or a vet quarterback to be able to help him along. Name some other young quarterbacks. Michael Penix got lucky. He got Kirk's Cousins.
Well, and Jaden Daniels has Mariota. But like Justin Fields never really had it. No. I don't think. And look at kind of where he is. I guess he had Russ, last year in Pittsburgh. I
wouldn't count that one.
I don't think Russ isn't equipped to be the vet. Like, so the Giants are maybe a good example. Jackson Dart, they think he's going to be their guy, or at least they're certainly, I don't think, in the business of draft. And that's why that game's really interesting. Raiders, Giants, they're not looking at quarterback for the Giants. They're looking at, can we be number one so we can trade to whomever and maybe someone leapfrogs the Raiders, gives us a pick. But Dart has, take Russ away. He has Jameis. If I'm the Giants, I'm like, no, I want Jameis back. I want Jameis around. Where I get Jameis is the goofiest dude around, but he's still a vet who's seen a lot of football. And I know in meetings, and I'm sure on the sideline, because that's kind of the biggest thing, is you need someone that isn't the coach, right? Not that your quarterback coach isn't a value, but you want a guy that's almost like a coach, but is still a player.
Right. I think Jameis would be perfect. He's a perfect backup quarterback. A guy that's going to be very influential in the locker room. He's going to also, hype up your quarterback. Great with being able to, great communicator. If I'm a backup quarterback, I'm looking at the Vikings heavy. I'm looking at the Raiders. Even though, they're probably going to get some young guys, but still, man, it's going to be wide open over there. What's some other good teams, that some other teams that might need some spots? The Saints quarterback is playing a lot better. He's improving.
That's a good one, though, is New Orleans.
Right? Yeah, that's great.
Rattler shouldn't get back. You look at in, that same division, I think Carolina, Andy Dalton's probably been great for Bryce Young. When you think about, right? When you think about, look at where Bryce is now in year 3, that team might go ahead and win that division. And so who are the other guys out there? It's funny because we talk about quarterbacks, and I always have said that it's crazy to me, with 380 million people in America and now 8 billion people on the planet, we can't find 32 good quarterbacks.
Oh, it's bad, man.
But the value of that backup quarterback, and I go back to a year ago, you talk about the competition between Stiddy and Bo. Stiddy in the locker room is like, I think I'm one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the NFL. And some people took that as like, oh, I'm better than Bo, which is not what he was saying. He's basically saying, I'm better than Chris Oladukin,
Yeah.
I'm better than JJ McCarthy. Certainly what we've seen through his 2 seasons, now 24 games and counting. But
Yeah,
the idea that you
got to take quarterback. They got to draft a quarterback.
Well, like you said, Rivers too. Like the fact that Rivers can walk off the street, that he's a better option than whatever they had in that building, or they can't coax Sam Ehlinger to come join them. And that says something about Ehlinger too, that he would rather stay here on the practice squad and then they put him on the active, but then go be the starter in Indy, who was in the playoff mix. That's pretty remarkable.
I'm definitely going if I'm Sam Ehlinger. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
no time to getting some time and getting an active check. For your accrued years, business wise, is it smart to go play?
Well, the Broncos ended up putting him on the 53. So,
he did. Okay,
yeah, but regardless, if you're a competitor, why wouldn't you want to play? Like, I understand the notion of the Broncos may be going farther this year. So if you want a ring, they'd still send him a ring, I think, if they were to win. And he could probably come back here if you don't sign up and he got a long-term deal. He can come back next year. But I don't know. So speaking of backups, this is Bo, and I kind of forgot this. It just was in the back of my mind because I'm thinking, okay, what can Forsyth do in place of Wattenberg? But this is Bo last night on Forsyth stepping in, who's going to be the center now for a while.
I'm super proud of him. Nobody prepares. I would say nobody prepares more in this league than he does. I think he is one of the most, in-depth preparers I've ever seen, and it's awesome to play behind him. I knew going into this game that he wasn't going to leave a stone unturned, and he prepares like no other, and he's going to do his best to put the team in the best chance of succeeding. And I think. We all know what happened here last year and how, much it hurt him and how much, it meant to him. I think it's just, sort of a God wink that he got to, come back here and start and play the full game, and we get our first win here for, in a long time. And so I think he has earned that, and he definitely well-deserving of that game ball.
Yeah, and I think about that, right? Like stepping in to the place where you last year on that blocked field goal. That's I guess kind of fun football justice, if you, I don't know what you call it, but the karma, whatever it is, I don't know. For Forsyth, who had probably the worst moment of his young NFL career, to now certainly one of the best.
It can happen like that. The game changes. You got to be able to fight and still be prepared and ready to play anytime your time is called. Forsyth has had experience of playing in this league for a while. So, Broncos have veteran O-linemen, and, losing those tight games in KC just adds callous, strengthens the team and strengthens their confidence of being able to win in the playoffs and being able to get that. All those little, we kind of had shadows kind of following us, right? We didn't make the playoffs for 10 years. We didn't. What was the streak in Kansas City?
15. Oh, in Kansas City? Y'all hadn't won since I think the Roby B. Marsh. It's been, I think, a decade. Hadn't swept them since the year before that, 2014, because we all remember 2015, even though you won there, that was the infamous 4 interception game when Payton sets the record for most completions on the out to Ronnie Hillman. They try to stop the game, and Payton's like, no, because he'd already thrown 2 picks.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, it was a lot of dark clouds that the Broncos had to overcome, and through the blocked field goals and losing the tight games in Kansas City and things like that. It built them up, and now they're ready to go. So I think they should be way better in the playoffs this year. I don't see them going one and done. But will it be hard for them to win a Super Bowl as well as they're playing right now? I would say yeah, because they're not playing the best football right now. But they're callous, they're more prepared, they're more experienced to go into the playoffs this year.
Well, and speaking of that callous, the one thing, and I'm watching the game with some friends who had us over for Christmas. It's a bunch of Broncos fans. The one random neighbor who's a Chiefs fan who's talking trash just to do it, knowing that his team isn't in it. And there's a nervousness. I'm seeing on Twitter like, oh, we should win this game, but why am I so nervous? And I think it is all the stuff you talked about, the decade, the losing to the Chiefs, not making the playoffs. But the other side of it is the Broncos have been behind in all 12 of their 1-score wins. And so there's not a panic there. And we know every playoff game is close. Typically, you'll have the outliers, those early round games, or the random Super Bowl blowout like last year. So when they get in the playoffs and they're down, 23-14 or whatever it may be, I don't know if that's the end of the world, because, that's how they were down in the Chargers game. They've been there. This is where they live. And so I get your point about you got to play better, because a team like the Jags won't let you get back in it, maybe. But they'll be fine in these close games, it feels like.
Yeah, you just don't know. In the playoffs, the games can get ugly fast. Right. And they can, it could get ugly real quick. A team scored 3 times in a row, bam, you find yourself in a hole. You got to be able to fight back and come back. That's what I'm worried about on Denver. We play a team in the playoffs, we get in the hole. Can we come back and win that game? We want to play tight games. We've shown that we can come back this season, but it's different in the playoffs. It's a lot harder. Teams are a lot better. So that's just one thing I'm worried about, is that we need to get our running game better. Our secondary has been a little leaky the last couple of games, and we need to tighten that up before we go.
Yeah, and I'm not, I think it was easy to point to PJ Locke after, that first game against the Jags. I don't think that you could do that yesterday, although it's hard to say that they were leaky, like you talked about with.
They were solid.
Yeah, with the way the Chiefs threw the ball. So in that road to now 12 wins in the one score, or in the comeback, all technically a comeback where they were behind. They get to 13 on the season. Sean Payton is in pretty rarefied air here. He ties only Bill Belichick as the coaches to win 13 games at least 5 times. And Sean was asked about that distinguished mark last night.
Man, I've been fortunate to have been on and coached a lot of great players. There's nothing like winning, and all of those teams, when I heard that, I had trouble figuring out which were the 13-win teams, but because we had some other teams that were 12 and 11-win teams, but I've been fortunate to have really good players and real good coaches, some of them right here that have been a part of, all of those wins, part of those wins. Obviously, Bill's good company. So let's keep it going.
Yeah, I think, Belichick, as long as you're not tying him for most adult cheerleading competitions watched in person,
right.
When it comes to NFL coaching, he's pretty unmatched. So when you can get in a club with him, how much do you think the two of those guys being around Bill Parcells, is it total coincidence, or is there something to that? Obviously, Parcells had other assistants, but those two specifically.
Just being, straight to the point, guys. Sean Payton doesn't sugarcoat too much. He tries to with the media sometimes, but he just can't do it. He's always a guy that's going to pretty much kind of be as straightforward as he can, even with interviews, and I think that's where that comes from. That coaching tree is a hard-nosed coaching tree. Most of his coaches they're not team, let's say young team coaches, or team guy type guys like that. A player's coach, they're not like that. So they're more, even though Sean Payton can be, he has a little bit in there, but most of the guys from that tree, they're all hard noses. They're all, get the job done or get out of here type guys. And, that's just that's his tree,
Yeah. And it's obviously served both of them really well. It's funny when they came in, and especially that first year, you're trying to change a culture here. The idea that like everyone's kind of walking on eggshells, or you're looking over your shoulder. Am I doing my job well enough? But that's also just an accountability thing. And so I think that clearly Sean knows how to win football games. I think maybe the biggest thing too that those guys both had in common is the situational awareness and situational football with what they preach to their team and then practice on Fridays. And obviously that helps them execute. So how about we do this? As we do every single week, it is, I think, the part of the show people look forward to the most. We're going to hop into Chris Harris Jr. Film Room.
Let's get it.
All right. So we'll, as we seem to have to do every single week, start with questionable calls on defense and questionable calls in general. How about this egregious pass interference? Can you believe they didn't get Pat for assault there as much as he was all over Worthy?
Great on the line. Pat is in a great situation right there. I think they called him for a little push tomorrow, or a little push at the top right there. The ball is non-catchable. Pat didn't even have to touch him. So it's a little ticky-tack. If I'm a ref, I wouldn't have called it because there's no way he can catch that ball. But, you know, Pat doesn't have to put his two hands on him at the top. It was great at the line of scrimmage. Great stand on top. He didn't even have to panic or anything. So it was just pretty much, you know, Pat just being able to be comfortable up top and just be able to turn back and look and lean. And, you know, so you don't get that PI.
Well,
it's ticky-tack, though.
It feels as ticky-tack as it comes. And speaking of ticky-tack, it happened the other way too. And it's funny, you got number 2. Here's number 1. Let's look at Evan Ingram. How egregious was this pass interference on Nick Bolton?
Nah, that happens. That happened to me versus Gronk like 50 times. That definitely is not a PI, you know, in the NFL. AB did that. All those guys, man, pushed off way just like that. I see Pickens do that every game. Right.
Michael Irvin's in the Hall of Fame because of that.
Exactly, right. So it's ticky-tack. Ingram is the second leading receiver on the team. So he is doing something this year.
Yeah, it's funny because his numbers aren't, you know, as dynamic as we thought they could be in this offense, and with Sean having his joker, or who we thought would be the joker. But he has come up with some big plays. That one there, I mean, good job, good concentration to find the football and secure it. I couldn't believe that was a PI call. That feels as bad as any that we've seen all year on either side of the ball. But here's your silver lining. Nothing called on Riley Moss yesterday. So
Moss had a good game. It was quiet. You know, those are the games you need. And did he get a target? He probably had like 2 targets.
I mean, it's hard to tell exactly where that kid was going all the time with the football. So, all right, we got those 2. The defense, you know, VJ and the defense. It was funny because Sean talked about this. They weren't trying to rack up sacks. They wanted to cage rush this guy because, as you touched on, Olajuwon certainly can use his legs. But this was kind of that sequence where in 2 or 3 straight plays, they really made him uncomfortable. And I think this was maybe one of the biggest plays. And if Benito pops it in the air, maybe he ends up walking into the end zone. What are they doing up front here? That's
Broncos just playing man and sending 5. You know, being able to just bring their heat. That's what we always do. We know that they don't want to go deep, so being able to get up, play aggressive. Benito's been great at getting his hands up all season. 10+ sacks. And that's what they do. You know, the Broncos are going to blitz, are going to bring some heat. And they know this guy wasn't going to be able to read the coverages, and they just had to keep him in the pocket. Well, great job by Benito.
Yeah, speaking of sacks, not a lot. But again, as Sean said, the goal of the game wasn't to rack up sacks. It was to keep him caged in. So you only end up with technically 1 sack, but it ended up being a pretty big one, historically, I guess.
Yeah. Ellis just makes plays. You know, he's just been a guy since they drafted him with limited playing time. He's made plays. So I love John Ellis. He is great. Always a high motor, very intelligent guy at the edge. And he's a great backup. He's a great, you know, number 3. Could possibly be a starter, you know. So no telling what his stats would be if he plays a full year starting, because the guy always makes plays.
Yeah, and we heard, you get a team record for sacks, surpassing their own record from a year ago, and they did it in 16 games. So at least you look at it and say, all right, well, that's a mark that really beats the 84 team. Not that they had whatever it was, that many more sacks in the final game last year, although they did play the Chiefs, and I think Olajuwon even got in the game a little bit in that one. But it's a credit to them. I don't think they're going to catch the 84 Bears with the 72 or whatever, but they're going to be poised come playoff time. And you talk about Ellis. They really have a nice almost 5-man rotation because it's Ellis it's Tillman, and Q Robinson is certainly demanding playing time as well. And
Tillman.
Yeah. So it'll be fun to see in the playoffs when VJ unleashes them. As far as that strategy, what do you think about that? The cage rush versus let's go get after him. Because Sean said the worst place to be in the NFL is behind the quarterback, especially an athletic one.
Yeah, you got to cage this guy. You know the only way he could beat you is with his legs, and that's when he did beat you, is when he created off script throws and found guys wide open. Other than that, he couldn't beat you in the pocket. He was not a drop back passer, and that's the thing you got to kind of have. You got to kind of try to cage rush this guy, keep him in the pocket, don't give him easy throws, and make him beat you through the air. And that's what the Broncos did. They played a game knowing that they played, I feel like Sean Payton coached the game like that. Like he knew, like, hey, we don't have to do too much. And we don't fear this guy on defense at all. So that was a great game plan by VJ, even though we didn't get the stats and things that you wanted. When you play a guy like this, a backup, you kind of just want to make sure that you just make sure all the guys that follow the game plan. You don't want to bring too much exotic stuff out. And because there's going to be some new wrinkles that they bring out coming into the playoffs.
All right. A guy that we haven't talked about maybe enough. He was a Pro Bowl alternate. We can also touch on the Pro Bowlers here when we get out of the film room. But this dude has been a stalwart as the leading tackler on special teams in the NFL and is now an alternate for the Pro Bowl. But here's just one of many plays that he's made all season. What do you think of Devin Key, the backup safety, who's been so key, if you will, on special teams?
Yeah. You got to have some guys like that. I mean, he hasn't played a major role in defense, but special teams, he's definitely been an impact player, leading the team in tackles, most tackles, special teams tackles in team history. And we've had some great special teams guys from Bruton, Keith Burns, right? Burns was if they had a special teams Hall of Fame, Burns would be in it.
Yeah.
Right. So key to come up there and match him and, have a chance to be able to have the most tackle, he's tied for it, but to be able to stand alone next week, that's a great job by the kid, great effort, and you need impact players on the special teams, especially, with today's day with a lot of young players. You got to have some key guys on special teams that can give you high effort and go make tackles.
And it's funny because guys get bumped up to have to play more, and talking to Rizzy about, that's always the biggest challenge when PJ Locke, who's a core special teamer, Stranad, they're thrust into action at linebacker that can have that domino effect. And then you're relying on guys that maybe aren't in there as much because you can't have starters on every special team the way they do when you're totally healthy. Let's look at a couple plays on offense. How about, we talked about, you said with that cover too, Bo still took some chances down the field. They weren't deep shots, but here's a big one that ends up adding to Cortland Sutton's season total. And what about, you got the drop in the end zone. You had a couple drops last week, but just what you've gotten from Sutton, especially after paying him in his 30s, which is something you don't always see.
Yeah, that was a great throw, being able to find that whole shot. I think that might have been his biggest catch of the day, but being able to get 1,000 yards, that's huge. 3 for Cortland, that's great. DT's right behind DT, and I don't think anybody catches Rob right now at this pace. He's staying alone right now, but congrats to Court. Is this his first Pro Bowl?
Yeah, no. It's his second. But in
2019,
he makes it. I think he and Chubb made it, but then he tears his knee the next year. And so to fight through it, it's the fact that he's still been able to string, all these 1,000-yard seasons together, goes back-to-back 1,000 yards. I think
Emmanuel Sanders three on there, right?
Yeah,
playing as the number 2 with DT and still getting 1,000 almost every year that he was here. Even with Trevor, he had 1,000. Right. So hey, he was low key balling as a Bronco, man.
Yeah, and so to see Court in that, I guess it's his third 1,000-yard season, but to do it in back-to-back years and to have that gap between Pro Bowls, I do want to talk about the Pro Bowl here in just a sec, but let's look at one more play that ended up being, I think, the difference in the game in so many respects, at least in how the game ended.
Just Harvey making a play, knowing where he's at, being able to extend his route as much as possible, knowing that he is the number one guy, and they probably worked this scramble drill right here and being able to act like you're going out and being able to stop on the dime. That's the pattern of Sean Payton. When you play Sean Payton, you know you're getting boot to the left. It's coming. And
defensive left.
Or to defensive left, our left, right? That's how I'm talking from a defensive standpoint, right? It's coming to the left, guys. You know it's coming every time. And they were on it, but sometimes you got to be able to scramble and make a play. Harvey, shout out to Harvey, being able to make big plays. He was probably the only guy that really had standing out on the offensive side of the ball yesterday. So shout out to Harvey, man, playing some good ball right now.
And it's some pretty rarefied air. He scored in 5 straight games, so that ties a team record. I didn't watch in the early 70s because I wasn't around, so I didn't see John Keyworth, but I remember Peyton Hillis rolling for that stretch, and then Philip Lindsay, of course, you were there for that, undrafted local kid, and now RJ Harvey, and then you see, how about that rarefied air, Alvin Kamara, certainly in Sean Payton's offense. He's a touchdown away from tying him, and then Gale Sayers, because he had 2 kick returns there. So Gale had 20 touchdowns rushing and receiving, and he had 2 kick returns. He set the rookie record with 22. I believe Eric Dickerson had 20. So RJ's likely not catching them. I don't think he has a 9 touchdown game next week, but yeah, he did. I saw this stat. Let me pull it up real quick. He did tie some pretty unique company with who has had 5 rushing and 5 receiving touchdowns as rookies. Here's the list. We'll go in reverse order. Doak Walker, Charlie Taylor, Gale Sayers, Kamara, and now RJ and Ashton Genty. The only rookies in NFL history with 5 rushing and 5 receiving. So that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That list was even more I guess exclusive because of the 7 rushing touchdowns there. So how about this? So you say it's part of the Sean Payton offense. Bo Nix gives RJ credit, says he sees the game like a quarterback. Here's Sean, though, talking about the play.
Yeah, it was covered initially, and then, he kind of climbed, and then, man, he's got receiver skill sets that are – I couldn't see the angle, and I heard the cheer, and I just said, please tell me that's not an interception, because it was loud enough where I didn't know if it was the Kansas City cheer. Unfortunately, it was the Bronco cheer. So I'm anxious. I'm sure it was a heck of a throw and catch. But to score 7, it greatly changes the dynamic with their kicker. You know how the kicking game is, like you're starting right at the 35 average. So it greatly changed the outcome of the game, that they needed a touchdown.
I think that, when you saw that final drive, if they just need to go down and get a field goal at Butker, that's going to be different. So Sean says he has receiver skill set. Bo says he sees the game like a quarterback, which he was. How valuable is that when and what do you think of Harvey? Did you expect this level of production as a rookie and to see him really come into his own after the Dobbins injury? Not that he wasn't playing well in his limited action before that.
Yeah, I seen him coming in based off him playing in the Big 12. Always one of the top running backs, and they were loaded. It was a lot of good running backs in the Big 12. But Harvey was always explosive, and seeing his catching ability matched with what I've had to play against, going against the Sean Payton, seeing how he uses his running backs. You knew he was going to be an impact this year. I just thought Dobbins would be the bell cow. He would be the leading guy and be able to ride him in the playoffs because he's more of a playoff guy. But Harvey's doing solid. He's doing his role. When you play with Sean Payton, you have a great chance of always having a high number touchdown catches and rushing as a running back if you're able to do that. But getting high praise from your quarterback, saying he's saying he's smart guy, can able to pick up the offense as a rookie, and that's what it takes, man. You got to be able to fight through that long rookie year. It's hard as a rookie playing with Sean Payton. All that verbiage and offense that you have to learn, but he's picking it up well. He's having a good rookie year, and you haven't really seen a drop off of Harvey, other than compared to Dobbins you have. But as a rookie, he's doing pretty solid. He's Ashton's right there. Then you got to go Harvey as number 2.
Yeah, and obviously he's part of a winning team. You would have thought Ibuka, it feels like it's a 3-person race. Maybe McMillan gets in there as your offensive rookie of the year, but it's interesting, right? Like all 4 of them can make a case, and it'll make for one of the more exciting, if you will, seeing award results at NFL honors. That does it, though, for this week's trip inside the Chris Harris Jr. Film Room. So I mentioned Pro Bowlers. Court goes back to the Pro Bowl for the first time, in a minute since 2019. And your other 5 Pro Bowlers, no surprise, PS2 now 4 Pro Bowls in 5 years. He's a starter. Nick Benito, a starter at outside linebacker. Zach Allen, a Pro Bowler. So that's the 3 on defense. I thought Hufanga might have gotten snubbed, but they ended up putting Derwin James, and I'm drawing a blank on the other 2 safeties, but Jalen Ramsey was, I think, one of them. And so he's one of the alternates. And then on offense, Miners again, he was your all-pro right guard, makes his first Pro Bowl this year, even though he's first-team all-pro. Court, as we mentioned. And how about your boy Garrett Bowles in year 9 going to his first Pro Bowl, is playing like the best left tackle in football right now?
Yeah, shout out to Bowles, man, being able to fight and still able to get it. Get your first Pro at year 9, that's amazing. Usually that's when they're saying you're falling off, and him to be able to get it at 9 is huge. Shout out to everybody. Miners, is that his first Pro Bowl?
Yeah, even though he's first team all-pro, this is his first Pro Bowl.
Yeah, Miners first Pro Bowl. Zach Allen, I don't know how many Pro Bowls. Is that 2?
Back-to-back years. I think I know last year he was. I can double check it. Last year he was second team All-Pro. So,
okay.
Allen
should be first team All-Pro. He slowed down a little bit. I know Jeffrey Simmons inside is playing like an All-Pro. But Zach Allen at one point, him and Benito slowed down. They had first team All-Pro. I don't know if they're gonna be able to get All-Pro anymore. It's gonna be hard with the way the rushers turned up. With Myles Garrett is gonna be an All-Pro for one. There's probably some other guys that's high up there. Will Anderson is high up there. Simmons. It's gonna be hard, man. But salute to those guys making the Pro Bowl. Like I said earlier in the season, when you win games, you get more guys there. 6 guys going there is huge. And it just shows that the Broncos are getting better. They are starting to get more respect around the league. And I just didn't like the Drake May over the Bo Nix, I didn't like that, That's the only pick I didn't like.
Yeah, but we get it, they get that East Coast bias. Lots of Patriots fans voting, I guess, because the way they pick the Pro Bowl, it's three voting blocks. It's fans, coaches, players, and they all count 33%. And so some of the numbers, though, this is the first time since 2016 that the Broncos are sending 6 players to the Pro Bowl. Can you remember who was on that 2016 Pro Bowl roster? Oh, sorry. It's the first time you've sent 2014. 2014. When y'all sent 6. I'm trying to read these stats.
Probably me, Talib, Vaughn, D.
Oh, that was so you. Yeah, so 2014 was your first Pro Bowl. CJ, Emmanuel Sanders, and then you got to think Peyton was on there, and DT was on there, and Talib wasn't there yet. Yeah. So here, Pat Surtain now second behind only 2 other corners in NFL history. I mean, in Broncos history, Champ Bailey, obviously, and Louis Wright, who lots of people think should be in the Hall of Fame. So he ties 2 other corners with 4 Pro Bowls. Do you know who those 2 corners are?
Probably me and Talib, I think.
Yep, you nailed it. So good work
That's
there.
That's the record, though. Going first round, top 5 pick. Pat he should get Pro Bowl every year.
Yeah, I mean,
where they give it out. You see Pat probably getting at least 5 more. So how many is the record for in Denver?
Well, 8 in Denver. Champ has 12 overall because he made it all 4 years in DC, including.
Yeah, he's like Champ. He's in that same, first round top picks. Usually those guys are the 10 Pro Bowl guys, 8 Pro Bowl guys, because they come in, everybody already knows who they are. So they automatically should be, 10 Pro Bowls. If Pat doesn't get 10 plus Pro Bowls, that's not a successful career for Pat. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
With his size and his stature, his skills, he should at least have 10 plus Pro Bowls.
Well, and also his ability, because he has lived up to the expectation basically right away. Could have been a Pro Bowler as a rookie, and when you look at so all time, Elway made 9.
That record.
Yeah, Champ and Vaughn have 8. Steve has 8. All Hall of Famers. All Steve should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. Vaughn will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Sharpie Hall of Famer. Gradishar finally a Hall of Famer. What's crazy about Mech, by the way, is Mech made it playing interior D-line, playing linebacker, and playing off the ball linebacker. Yeah. That's pretty remarkable for Carl Mech.
Smith, no all pros. Oh, that's just crazy.
I know.
The way he used to come and kill people. Meckenberg, was a damn problem.
Yeah.
But everybody on that list, you got to at least have some all pros, Pro Bowls, man. And Elway didn't have any first team all pros. That's what I'm stunned at.
Yeah, I guess not. That's crazy, right? I'm sure he had a bunch
of first team all pros. Elway.
I wasn't voting.
That cannot be right. That can't be right.
And speaking of Elway, I don't know if it's only been out a couple of days, and he came in and talked to Woody and the crew on After the Horn. I got to go to the screening of that documentary. Watch it on Netflix. Any Broncos fan, give yourself 90 minutes. It's a great walk through his life and trip down memory lane to show all that he went through to fight to win that first Super Bowl, let alone the two of them. But it's a really good watch. So if you and Leah are looking for something to do once the girls are chilling, throw that on. 90 minutes. It's a quick, easy watch. And so shout out to
that John Madden movie, man. I think that's gonna be good.
Yeah, I think it will be too. I just don't need to see a preview 11 months. I mean, it's not the Avengers. I don't even know about next Thanksgiving's movies. Let me set my calendar right now for next year on Thanksgiving.
Coming out, right? I gotta watch. I gotta go watch the Avatar.
Yeah,
I'm hearing up and down reviews on it, but I gotta go
watch
it.
I want to see it in IMAX.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's one of the ones you want to. I mean, James Cameron's making a movie in IMAX for a reason. All right, we're gonna get to our predictions here in just a second, but let's do this real quick because we need to maybe get into the details and look ahead. Let's hop in to this week's latest injury report. So Bell and Pollock injury report. Let's start with the very first thing. Talanoa Hufanga, you see him kind of shaking up. He finished the game, so that's encouraging. And then talking about Luke Wattenberg, he heads to IR with that shoulder injury. I guess, you talk about these games being tough. Chargers will be a tough game. What do you think about not having Wattenberg for the entire run the rest of the way if he's not back? Because Sean said it was procedural more than it's like, oh, his shoulder he's done, the way Brandon Jones is with his pec.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. Being able to lose that consistency that we've had in the O-line. And but, Powers has been out. They've been able to fill in for him. Forsythe, good thing that, he has he's very familiar with the center position. Didn't he go to Oregon?
Yep. He played with Bo.
Yeah, he played with Bo. So they have that connection, right? He understands the game. So it's a good thing you have him as a backup, a veteran. So the injuries, you want to see Hufanga back. We're already down. What's the other? Jones at safety. So we need Hufanga to stay healthy, right? Especially going into the playoffs. We need our guys healthy, especially this week versus the Chargers. Big game in which you're gonna need that veteran guy back there. So hopefully he can get healthy with the extra days off, and hopefully the whole team is kind of use this kind of like a little bye week and get some rest. Hopefully guys can get some freedom today and this weekend and be able to recharge and get ready to go to finish this season strong.
Yeah, and we'll keep an eye on Dre Greenlaw's hammy. You don't feel good about Nate Atkins with the knee, and then you hope Pat Bryant can come back from the concussion. But in general, they're, knock on wood, relatively healthy, knowing that the playoffs are on the horizon and they get a little bit extra time to heal up as well. I know this, sometimes you don't plan on these injuries popping up. Certainly players know that it's part of the game, but they're not planning for it. And when it happens, or when you end up in perhaps an auto incident and have an accident, you need a team you trust and you need a good game plan. So there's no one I trust more than Our friends at Bell and Pollock, they're champions of the people. They'll fight for you. Come up with that winning game plan. Call them today, 303-795-5900 or championsofthepeople.com. So the IR, at least at this point, I thought it was 4 games, but I just texted someone in the know and they said it's 4 weeks. It's 4 weeks at this point. So that means he could come back for the AFC title game. If there's a bye, or if you play in week 1, it'd still be the same weekends, 4 weeks. But these final 2 games, and then with Greenlaw, it's a hammy, and you're going to err on the side of caution. Unless he's 100%, are you playing him against the Chargers?
If he can play, yeah. But, with Greenlaw, injury history, I'll say he'd be out probably about 3 weeks, get him ready for the playoffs. Hopefully we can get him going to the playoffs 100%. But, Chargers is a team that attack our linebackers. They run routes out the backfield. Herbert keys on the running back game in the passing game versus the Broncos. So that's a key matchup to look forward to next week.
Yeah, and look, we're going to get into the predictions, but I do have one final thing from Bo, because he was asked about the notion of winning the division and what you have to look for in the Chargers game. And we got to remember, had they beaten the Jags, they could have clinched everything last night. And then you would have had decisions to make with how you handle the final regular season game. Do you want them going from the 25th to January 17th, 18th without playing some key guys? The Chiefs did that a year ago, and it ended up being fine. They made it to the Super Bowl, but that's a veteran team led by Patrick Mahomes. This team isn't necessarily that. Here's Bo, though, on looking at winning the division and next week's game with the Chargers.
Well, I think, at the end of the day, none of it really matters, because we have to play the final game and we have to, take care of it. And, they're going to be a good football team. Now, some other team could help us along the way, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to us versus them, and we're excited to have them at home. It's going to be, a really good environment. It's going to be a great atmosphere, and honestly, it's playoff time. It's playoff atmosphere.
All right, so let's do this. Let's jump into our predictions, although I know David has the college football playoff games ready, so do we want to just get those out of the way quick, and then we'll circle back around to the NFL, because Chargers-Texans on Saturday is going to be a good one. I got to double check. Let's look at the bowl game so I know where they are.
Ohio State.
Yeah, so Ohio State and Miami, because I want to make sure we know which bowl is which. Ohio State, Miami. I know Miami beat a good A&M team. If it's not Ohio State and Georgia in the championship, I guess I need to look at the bracket. Those are the 2 best teams for my money. But who wins Ohio State, Miami?
Ohio State. Better quarterback. Defense is pretty equal. I like Miami's defense. Ohio State just got a little bit more dogs on their defensive side of the ball. Just better quarterback. I don't trust Carson Beck at all.
That game is in the Cotton Bowl, so you can go watch it in Dallas on New Year's Eve if you want.
A lot of red down here.
What's that?
So it's a lot of red down here right now.
Yeah, I get that. They're going to keep making their way down there. Ohio State 9.5-point favorites. Not only I think they win, I think they cover. So we're both on Ohio State there. Let's jump to the next one, Oregon and Tech. Obviously, you got plenty of Tech fans there. That's the Orange Bowl. So Lubbock to Miami or Dallas or Houston to Miami is easier than the Pacific Northwest to Miami. But close game, Oregon a 2.5-point favorite.
This is probably the hardest game right here. I'm going to go with Oregon, though. Top quarterback. I like their receiver weapons. I think they can be able to block Tech with their O-line. I think I'm going to go with Oregon this trip.
I'm going to stick to my our Big 12 roots. I'll go Texas Tech just for fun. Big Al, shout out to our buddy Big Al, Alfred Williams, going into the Orange Bowl Hall of Fame next week.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like, BK, come on down let's go to Miami. He and CJ got golf set up, and I was like, I got kids. I got to cover the Broncos. We got shows to do. So would I like to go do New Year's in Miami? Yes. But in this case, I'll just have to see the pictures and videos on social media or whatever they text us. All right, 2 more bowl games real quick in the CFP. Bama and Indiana. The Hoosiers 6.5-point favorites. Bama, obviously, once they fell behind, turned it on. to beat the Sooners last week. That's going to be the Rose Bowl. So not that easy to get from Tuscaloosa to the Rose Bowl, but we saw those Alabama fans there when they played Michigan a couple years ago. And then Indiana, I have to think that every Indiana fan in the world that can get on a plane and can afford a ticket will be there through this whole run. So do the Hoosiers keep it going as the top seed? Does this magical run continue?
Yeah, I believe so. They have a lot of weapons on offense, and the quarterback should be number 1 overall pick. Very solid, pro-style type quarterback. The defense plays hard-nosed. Bama, I think they should have lost versus OU. OU came out hot. They just didn't close the game. Dumb turnovers. And not having a quarterback to be able to dice them up. Well, guess what? Indiana has that. So I see Indiana winning this game.
What's funny is Mendoza, and maybe I'll have some friends come down from the Bay Area, but Mendoza, he grew up on the East Coast in Boston and went to Cal, where he was obviously a pretty good quarterback. I think went to a couple bowl games there, and finished product by the time, in a lot of ways, by the time he gets to Indiana here for his 5th season. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think that they do win that one. And so then, looking at the bracket, and I remember I had checked this. Your final game will be the Sugar Bowl, which is obviously there in New Orleans. So Ole Miss, Georgia, it's closer for Mississippi.
Yeah, this is a dogfight right here
to get to New Orleans. So I think that it'll be a good one. Georgia 6.5-point favorites. Ole Miss, obviously, without Lane Kiffin. Does Lane Kiffin, to support his players, does Lane Kiffin go down to the game and sit in the box and watch him players? He just watch it on TV and who wins? I have a hard time picking against Georgia, but they would play Ohio State if both teams advance in the Fiesta Bowl in the semifinals.
I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to go with Ole Miss right here. Just because I got a corner work with my little bro, Jalen Braxton at Ole Miss. So I'm going to go with him. I like the quarterback. He's scrambling. He's very active back there. He definitely can make some plays with his legs versus Georgia. I'm going to have to go with the underdog this week. Let's go Ole Miss. Let's go.
All right. I'll go Georgia because I think they're the better team. So, and then Georgia, Ohio State, whoever wins that, I think could be the national champ, or probably will be the national champ. So that's our college football picks. Makes for a fun couple days leading into the final weekend of NFL games. And we don't know how the schedule is going to shake out because the league waits to set the schedule. You get a couple games Saturday. They make a big deal about the Sunday night game. The Broncos could very easily be playing Saturday night because that game is going to mean something to the Broncos and Chargers, or they could be the final game. And if the Chargers win tomorrow, then that's a game for the AFC West and presumably for the Broncos for a chance at the number 1 seed. And so obviously the Broncos didn't lose. So, but they could still drop to the 5th seed, right? Because the Chargers can catch. I need to double check that, but the Chargers
could drop from first place to wild card.
Yeah, well, that's crazy that they can. Yeah, right. Because if the Chargers are 12-4, so the Chargers win tomorrow, Chargers would have the number 1 tiebreaker, which is head-to-head. They will have beaten them twice after the Broncos lost that game. So Texans Chargers, first game of the weekend tomorrow. I think the Chargers are a slight favorite, but I'm going to check real quick. And how do you see it playing out, though? Again, where there will be Chargers fans there, but they just don't have the same fan base they once did. And Texans fans aren't getting on a plane for that game. So who wins?
I got Houston winning this game. Houston defense is nasty. The pressure they bring in, I think they're going to get after the Chargers. Even though I think the Chargers, Herman's been playing solid, having a great year. The receivers just have stepped up. But this is a different set of corners right here. Texans secondary is probably number 1. When you look at the totality of everybody, safeties and corners included, they're probably playing the best right now. So I'm gonna go with Houston.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Texans are a better team. I think at some point the Chargers, I don't call it luck, but just they're undermanned. The fact that they're playing their backup tackles, it's a credit to Herbert and to Jim Harbaugh and to that defense that they lose Joey Bosa and it hadn't seemed to bother him. And Perryman hadn't played as much as he has over the years. So the Chargers are 2.5-point favorites, 39.5 over under. But yeah, I think I think it's a low score. I'll bet the under all day on that, and I'll watch it be 35-31. And that's one thing too, Chris, because we've talked about the Broncos' quality wins. I know they knocked CJ Stroud out, but we mentioned the Eagles win in Philly, beating the Chiefs the first time. The Packers win, obviously. That win at Houston, it was hard fought. They made plays when they needed to, especially late against a really, really good defense. But that's as much a quality win as anything because of how good that defense has been.
I think people just don't count it. They don't give him credit because CJ Stroud got hurt. But who knocked him out?
Right.
We knocked him out. So it just didn't work out. For the fans to get enough credit for that win. But that's a tough win, man. Anytime you got to go on the road and beat that team, they still had everybody on that Texas defense out there. And the coach, Houston's coach, he has that. His mentality of coaching has been embedded into those guys. You can say the same thing with the Chargers.
Yeah,
right?
D'Amico Ryans and Harbaugh both. Their fingerprints are on their teams for sure.
Yeah, they changed the programs there. So salute to those coaches. But I got Houston win this game. I'm gonna go with the better defense.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm there with you. How about this? We expect to see cross-conference games, Chargers, Texans, or rivalry games, division games this late in the year in the final 2 weeks. NFL gave us a sneaky one, Peacock only. So I have Peacock because I watch a lot of soccer. So it's no big deal for me. Peacock only exclusive Saturday night game, Ravens at Packers. Packers 2.5-point favorites despite losing the last 2 weeks to the Broncos and then the crazy loss to the Bears last Saturday night. Do the Packers bounce back after 2 straight losses? The Ravens have to win this game to stay alive in the playoffs because they are going to play the Steelers that final week, and they certainly need help with the Steelers game this week as they're in Cleveland taking on our guy Shelby and the Browns. But let's look at this game first. Do the Packers bounce back or do the Ravens? Lamar seems uninterested at times to me. Is he trying to get John Harbaugh fired?
I don't know. It's kind of interesting what's going on over there, but I would think the Packers would win this game. The Ravens just haven't had it all season. Packers need this game to feel good going into the playoffs. I think it's done over there in the AFC North. There's too much talking going on. Lamar Jackson doesn't work hard, things like that. I seen there was a big article on him. And Harbaugh, he's on would you say that he's on the hot list? We're gonna put him on the hot list.
I think that his seat is hot in a world where players almost always win. So unless Steve Bisciotti is saying, okay, we've done the most that we can with Lamar, and we're not going to ever get over that hump, because on top of Lamar being unhappy, Derrick Henry could also leave this year. And you want to talk about a nice compliment to RJ Harvey, find some money, get Derrick Henry here in Denver. Right. But Harbaugh signed an extension a year ago. And so I'll tell you this conversation super quick, but I'm at the league meetings and we're talking, I'm with Kalen Kaler, who's a great reporter for ESPN. And we're talking to Jed York. And I tell him, hey, one of my favorite storylines this year was people in San Fran saying, oh, it's time to move on from Kyle Shanahan, because I've known Kyle forever since he was in college playing at Texas with some friends, obviously being here now 20 years. And I was like, you can get a different coach, but you're not going to get a better coach. He goes, that's exactly the conversation I had with Steve Bisciotti, because they just gave Harbaugh a new deal. And Harbaugh's in year 18 or whatever. And Bisciotti and York are talking, and they're like, yeah, we can get a different coach than John Harbaugh, but we're not going to get a better coach. I'm not saying that fresh ideas don't help. And we may see it in Pittsburgh, how it plays out. But I think Harbaugh's seat is hotter than it likely should be, because if they believe that he and Lamar, there's the reports saying Lamar's falling asleep in meetings and all this stuff. It's a bad look on Lamar, but when players want to be, a-holes, they can be.
Yeah, I don't know who's reporting the quarterback sleeping in meetings. Usually the quarterbacks have a lot of power too, right? So whoever leaked that out, I'd be definitely aware with that. But it's just time. Time has played its course over there. They've had new OCs, they've had new D coordinators. They lost a lot of coaches too, from other teams. A lot of the times Lamar Jackson hasn't had weapons, if we're just going to be real.
But he does now. Wouldn't you say that Zay Flowers, Hop's a million years old, but Zay Flowers, at times the most dominant running back in football, a solid O-line, and Andrews and Likely are as good a tight end duo. So I get that over his career, 8 years.
Not the number one receiver that you need in the playoffs. Derrick Henry, he's been solid, but they always shy away from giving him the ball. So it's like he doesn't even get his touches. I mean, the last playoff game they had, I think he had like less than 15 touches. Like he didn't get the ball like that. So it's just the way they use those guys. And they play their course, right? They've had chances to get over the hump. This would be the perfect year with Mahomes out. Now they kind of opened up the door for Josh Allen to be able to kind of bust through that AFC with no Joe Burrow out too. It's pretty much wide open, And if I'm Josh Allen, I'm looking at it, this is my opportunity to take over the AFC.
Yeah, it will not be. There will not be a better opportunity. You got to think in the next 5 years for Josh Allen than it will be this year. Young quarterbacks that are really unproven in the playoffs. CJ Stroud, right, hasn't won a playoff game, I don't think. Maybe they won one last year. That won one last year and lost to the Chiefs. Drake May hasn't played in the playoffs. Bo Nix 0-1 in the playoffs. Justin Herbert hadn't won in the playoffs. So it's going to be there. I guess Aaron Rodgers, he's certainly won in the playoffs, but no one's scared of the Steelers if it's Bills Steelers in week 1. Harbaugh said this week though, he says he's transparent with everybody. He had a great conversation with Lamar just a couple days ago and said that their relationship is A+. I love him, always have, always will. But said they talked about a few things, football, how he's feeling, stuff like that. So we'll see if Harbaugh's doing that as a PR campaign to try to save his job or just to get his quarterback back engaged or whatever it may be. But we know how we've seen this story over and over and over, whether it's going back to John Elway and Dan Reeves, going back even farther, Michael Jordan and Chris Collins, right? We go down this list forever. And yeah. I don't say 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, the player wins. The star player wins the dispute with the head coach. Other than when Kobe got Phil to retire for a year, your boy, because he's like, man, I don't want to put up with this. He's like, I don't need to deal with this jerk. I'm going to take a year off. Oh, y'all made some good moves. Jerry West got us. Pau Gasol. Okay, I'll come back. Jags, Colts. Colts still fighting for their playoff lives. Phillip Rivers and company. The Jags playing as good a football as anybody. Trevor Lawrence is rolling, and I'm sure they're favored in this one. Oh, by the way, did we get a Packers Ravens pick? We're both on the Packers.
I'm going with Packers.
Yeah, me too.
I think the Packers get it done. It's gonna be it's always a tough game when you play the Ravens, but I just don't believe in them this year. I think they're done. The media stuff that's coming out hadn't looked good. I'm gonna go with the Packers.
Colts 6.5-point favorites in Indy against old man Rivers. I don't know if they cover because the Colts D has been, I think, it was kind of a fun game against the Niners. The D wasn't good. Brock Purdy cost me one fantasy championship opportunity because he was awesome. Jonathan Taylor, obviously, he's the focal point. So any world where the Colts win, I'm going Jags.
I'm going Jags. They're hot, playing good. Coming off a win in Denver. Phillip Rivers is not going to be he's going to be running for his life versus the Jags D-line. Allen, those boys coming off the edge. I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence and them boys. He's playing good. Head coach over there has done a great job, man. He got them boys who are playing with a little swag. Trevor Lawrence has never ran like this. So that's what I'm seeing different from Trevor. He's running the ball way more. He's more aggressive. He's trying to, use his body and his frame finally and making plays. So I like where he's at right now. He's trying to prove something. When I watch the Jags and I watch Trevor Lawrence, it looks like he's hungry.
It's funny, the nature of the show. And see, you're lucky in that you talked to Ryan and Shelby on Tuesday. So you got to talk about the Jags and Broncos. We just kind of glossed right over what the Jags did. And I asked Sean Payton this. Was it an anomaly? Some of the you talk about the drops, you talk about their efficiency in the red zone. What's funny about the Jags when they came in, and they couldn't have improved this much, but they were 25th on offense on third down and 26th on defense, or vice versa. And they were awesome on third down against the Broncos on both sides of the ball. So does that feel like that was an anomaly for the Broncos? Because someone said, "Oh, is there a blueprint?" And I was like, "Well, you got to have a player like Lawrence." And their skill guys, I think, are even without Travis Hunter, pretty underrated. I like the tight end. ETN's playing great football. And then, Thomas has obviously had a step back, but he and Myers, pretty good set of wideouts compared to who the Ravens have and certainly who the Bills have in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the Jags are a solid team. They're built together right. Their head coach is a great coach for them. The young guy that's played in the NFL, that's had experience and knows what it takes to win. So that's what I like about the Jags. They played the Broncos great. I wouldn't say it's a blueprint because the Broncos hadn't just been wowing people on third down all season. They've been middle of the pack in third down. So the Jags have just came up and executed their game, and I don't see Rivers being able to go and beat the Jags. It's not going to be enough.
Talk about hot seats. I don't think he's there, but it'd be interesting in Steichen if they go from being 8-2 to 8-9.
Nah, Steichen's good. He's good.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. All right, let's get through these real quick. Seahawks, Panthers. That might,
Seattle.
Yeah, you like Seattle? I think I do too. As good as Mike McDonald is, Dave Canales spent a lot of time in Seattle too. Yeah, I'm with you. I go Seahawks on that. Maybe the Panthers surprise us. Seahawks 7.5 point favorites. 7.5 point favorites. Seahawks got to win to keep pace in their division and for a shot at number one. Panthers need to obviously keep
got to win.
Well. Okay, let's jump to the next one. Eagles, Bills. That's a fun one too. You talk about cross conference, big games late in the year. Eagles, Bills. That game is
Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles have been playing better, so it's hard to go against them. That is an afternoon game where the Bills are 1.5 point favorites there in Orchard Park. I'll go Bills at home. Josh Allen, team of destiny. If the Bills
are at home, yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bills then too.
All right, so we're both on Bills, but neither of us will be surprised if the Eagles win. And I think do we have two more? Bears, Niners, 11-4 teams. I'm not sure we would have seen this with the injuries to the Niners defensive stars and to the Bears when you talk about their kind of upstart Sunday Night Football. 3-point favorites. The Niners are 3-point favorites in the Bay.
I'm going with the Niners, man. They're hot. Purdy's hot. He's passing it to everybody, all the receivers. O-line is blocking solid. I'm on the Shanahan train.
Yeah.
I'm on his train right now, regardless who he has out there. As long as he got Trent Williams, Purdy, Kittle,
and C-Mac,
he can make things happen, right? He got his core guys, and then he can fill in around them. So I'm going with the 49ers.
Yeah, we'll see if Kittle can end up going, but there's a chance he plays after getting hurt on Monday Night Football. I'm with the Niners too. All right, final game will be the final game. We have two more. Do we have the Pats, or we think the Pats roll? I guess that's going to do it. That was our final game.
Probably play someone.
Yeah, they do play the Jets and then the Dolphins. So if the Jets game's in New York, Pats are 13.5 point favorites. If the Patriots, Chargers, Bills, and Jags all lose, the Broncos are number one seed. So
we need all those teams to lose.
Yeah, we need all those teams to lose, and they don't even do anything. They win it on being on the couch. All right, Chris, I'll let you get out of here. I know you got to run. I got to run. Celebrate boxing day. Thanks to David. Great job. Thank you for listening. We won't talk to our great listeners and viewers before New Year. So happy New Year to everybody. Hope you had a great Christmas, and we will see you next year on Football Fridays.